So get ready. This is going to upset a lot of you. My name is Craig Meister. I am a college admissions coach, and you can learn about how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process at my website, collegemeister.com. Today, I want to talk about a subject that is just dirty. They're doing you dirty over at many selective colleges, not just the Ivies. But in order to assemble a diverse class, colleges in the United States are increasingly bending over backwards in order to select students from all different types of high schools, because that's one way in which they sort of measure diversity. Yale has recently admitted that in lieu of affirmative action, zip codes matter more than ever before in terms of their selection process. So it wouldn't be surprising for those who think about these things, but most of course don't because it's too unseemly to think about, to realize what is in fact happening at many selective colleges and universities in the United States in 2024. And here's one dirty little secret. It's not really a secret, it's sort of open secret, but it's not discussed enough. There are many times, too many times, I think one time is too many, but everyone is entitled to their opinion and their philosophy on this. But there are many times in selective college and university admissions offices, these hollowed halls, or virtual halls if they're working remotely still, which sometimes they are, where a student is applying from a high school where many students are type A students. They're high achieving students. They're getting all mid to high 700s on both sections of the SAT or the equivalent on the ACT. They're getting straight A's. They're all taking 5, 10, 15, maybe 20, if that's possible, AP. I mean, these are high achieving high schools, AP courses, where the students are just basically pumping out 1560s, 1530s, 1590s on the SAT within this particular high achieving school, high achieving community, very academically oriented community. A 1530 from a student applying from such a school to Ivies or Ivy League level schools in terms of selectivity could very well be in that high school in the middle 50th percentile area, sort of like really right in the middle, or even in the bottom, believe it or not, depending on the high school, they could be in the bottom 50% of the scores that are reported from the high school out on the high school's profile. So again, let's say it's called High Achieving High School, and on that high school's profile that is sent to all colleges with the students' transcripts, it says that the middle 50% of SAT scores at this high school are, let's say, 1540 to 1580. This is a high achieving high school. This is hardcore, right? But there are even obviously less dramatic cases of this where the middle 50% of SAT scores at a particular high school are 15 or 1430 to 1500, let's say. Well, that's still very impressive, but it's a high achieving high school. But let's say your scores at that high school, you're a student at that high school, and your scores are like in basically like the 60th percentile, maybe the 70th percentile, maybe as low as the 39th percentile, 25th percentile at that high school piece. It's a very high achieving high school. But you are a strong student. You've worked your butt off for years at this school, and to achieve that 1530 on the SAT, you learned a lot. You output a lot on the SAT. You've gotten straight A's. You're an amazing extracurricular entity. You help out at home. You're a community servant. You go to your church. You do all these things. You're going to hopefully be in the ROTC. I mean, you're just like an all-star human being. You come from a good family. You love your parents, and you're doing everything you can do. You take care of your younger siblings. You drive one of them to ballet practice on Saturday. I mean, you are just an awesome person. Congratulations. But to the Ivy League school you just applied to, ED or regular, they're looking at it and they're saying, well, but compared to other kids at his school, he has 50th percentile or lower on his SAT for that school. And so, yes, even though he is in our middle 50th percentile, for SAT scores of students entering, we have a lot of kids from his high school also applying, or other similar high schools, or of similar demographics, or of similar zip code, or similar sex, or similar, whatever it might be in their mind, similar class, similar extracurriculars, similar trumpet, whatever it may be that, they're defining you as. So your 1530 all of a sudden isn't so impressive because of where you go to high school. Now, if you had gone to that public school 2 zip codes over, where your parents refused to let you in for 4 years because they were scared for your safety, or they were scared that you wouldn't learn as much or be surrounded by peers who would pressure you positively to behave and comport to your family's values, they were really hesitant to send you to that public school. But if you had gone to that public school and still managed to get the 1530, then your 1530 would really be impressing these colleges. I know it's amazing to say this. This is not me saying this as in I agree. This is me saying as a reporter telling you what is happening in the eyes of the admissions officers at the colleges you were often applying to at the very most selective level in the United States. But let's say you went to middle school with some guy, or lower elementary school with some girl, and they did end up going to that public school 2 zip codes over in your district, and stayed in public school their entire K through 12. And they didn't really try that hard. And the school has a middle 50th percentile SAT of, let's say, 1020 to 1210. Okay. Because it's a very diverse school from a diverse district with diverse family values and diverse post-secondary plans, and only 74% of people go to 4-year colleges from that public school, whereas your high school, 99, if not 100%, go to 4-year colleges. So it's a very different demographic population. It's different. You go to this private school that you pay money for. It's high achieving. It could even be a public school. In some cases, it's a public school. So don't get me wrong. It's not always a private versus public issue. Sometimes you just got lucky. You're in the neighborhood that's in the better public school, and someone down the street from you is in the lower performing public school, but you're literally on the same street. None of you are putting out money. It's not always a private versus public thing. So don't get me wrong. But in this scenario, okay, fine. You go to a private school, let's say, and the other kid goes to a public school. But anyway, the case may be, it doesn't matter if it's public versus private. It matters how it looks relative to the other students at your school. So this kid goes to a school where 75th percentile or higher SAT scores at that high school are 1210 or higher. And that student who you're friends with, socially, you've known this person for years, they're okay, they're fine, there's nothing wrong with it. They're a nice person too. They are extracurricular activities, but let's just say they haven't tried as hard. They never really did enrichment. They didn't want to. They had no interest in it. They'd rather sun themselves at the beach over the summer, or just sit at home and eat bonbons, or whatever it might be. And they don't really try that hard. They've taken a handful of AP classes. There are not as many AP classes, let's say, at this other kid's high school, where the lower SAT profile exists. And this student has gotten a 1350 on the SAT. That's really impressive for that high school. Really impressive for that high school. Because most kids don't score out of the 13, even into the 1300s at that high school, let's say. Or if they do, that's rare. It's in the upper 25th percentile at that high school, right? Because 1210 or higher would be in the upper 25th percentile at that high school. All other things being equal, you would think there's no chance that this kid with a 1350 at this lower performing high school would have a leg up on the first person I talked about, you, who is doing all these other things and also has a 1530 on his SAT. But you would be mistaken, because increasingly, doesn't all the time happen, but increasingly colleges are really serious about contextualizing a student's achievements in every which way. And they're saying, well, this kid's in the lower 50th percentile at his higher performing school. Why? We don't want someone in the lower 50th percentile test-wise at his high school. So, and this might even also doubly be annoying, because maybe not all the scores are being reported. Not everyone's taking tests anymore. The lower performing kids aren't taking tests in a test optional environment. So the averages are even all screwed up. But that just makes it even more painful. It's like salt in the wound. But again, you got a 1530. That's a darn good SAT score. But there are a lot of kids at your school who are getting 1550s or 1570s. You are going to get punished for that now. You are going to be punished in the name of equity. You are being punished for that. And the kid down the street who you're friendly with, lovely, has never tried as hard. Their parents either chose not to move, maybe they can't move, or if it's a public school, or they chose not to put them in a private school because they can't afford it, or whatever. And that's so fair. That's complete. But they got a 1350. But that's raw talent. They didn't really try as hard in high school. There weren't as many AP classes, correct? That student all of a sudden looks like this shining diamond in a pile of sand, whereas you look like some damaged good in a pile of beautiful diamonds to the college. And so I hate to tell you this. Hold on to your chair. Hold on. And maybe you agree with this, so maybe you're not going to have to hold on to your chair. Everyone comes at this from a different angle. But guess what? There is a very real possibility, depending on that student's grades and letters of recommendation and extracurricular portfolio, depending on yours, the 1350 may ultimately trump your 1530. Mind blown, right? That is the reality of college admissions in the United States. If you don't like what I just told you, then let's do something about it. Let's try to change the culture. But at least right now, this is the culture of the most selective American colleges and universities. It's a very, very startling version of the culture, and you don't hear it stated like that often enough, but it's real. And it happens it happens with GPA all the time. A 3.9 at one school is not the same, is going to be less impressive potentially as a 3.5 at another school. It happens with number of AP courses. Let's say there was only 5 AP courses at one school and the student took all 5, whereas at your school there are 20 AP courses, you took 3. Or maybe even took 6, let's say took 6. You look like you didn't take advantage of your school's curriculum enough relative to the school's offerings, whereas the other kid completely took advantage of all the AP courses. So you had 6 AP courses, he had 5, or she had 5. Who looks better? Objectively, you took more. Maybe you even did better. But let's say you did, maybe everyone's just getting straight A's, everything else is equal. You took more overall, raw numbers. That student took more, the other student took more as a percentage of those offered. Which one's going to impress colleges more? Depending on the college, it could go either way. Amazing. So keep this in mind. What can you do? All you can do, if you're already in high school and you're locked and loaded in the school you're in for the remainder of your high school career, is do the very best with what you're offered and try your hardest. Take advantage of as many opportunities as you possibly can within your school and try your best to do well on the standardized tests. And then you'll determine if you can send them or should send them, depending on the school, if it's test optional, and how this compares to other kids at your school. If you don't know how other kids at your school do, or you have no idea about any of that, like how do colleges know? Go to your school's counseling office and ask for a copy of your high school profile. That is your high school's resume. That is where you can actually see what your high school is sending to all the colleges students apply to from your high school to contextualize their achievement and see how you may be falling and how you may be cast. Their name's not going to be in the high school profile, but they give statistics in high school profiles. See how you will be cast relative to your peers at your high school, and just gird yourself, I guess, is all I can say if you're not happy with what it looks like. If you're young, or if you have a kid in 8th grade or 9th grade, or you consider moving, or you're debating already switching high schools for your child or you, then look at the high school profiles of the schools you're considering. Consider the output of you or your student, your work ethic, everything else you want to achieve. And if your end goal is getting to the most selective colleges or universities, this opens up a huge can of worms, obviously. Like, should you move to Wyoming? Because, maybe you should. That's a whole nother, that's taking it to the next level, but it's true. And this has been going on for years, and that's an old joke for years. Should you move to South Dakota if you want to get into Penn or Princeton? Well, yes. Literally, but can your parents move you to South Dakota or Wyoming? No, they have jobs and families back in New Jersey or in New York or in Massachusetts or in London. It's not so easy to just move to North Dakota because only a few people are applying from that state to these schools. It's the same idea. It's diversity. 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 That's what this is. Okay? This is diversity, equity, and inclusion from the perspective of the colleges and universities. This is just one manifestation of it throughout the college admissions process. This is one of many, of course. And again, you have every right to have your own views on this matter and see the pros and cons. I see the pros and cons. But if you're rubbed the wrong way that a student who ultimately has achieved much more and who knows much more is going to be at a huge disadvantage potentially to a kid who knows much less and has achieved much less, purely based off of where they went to school and the perceived opportunities involved with that, then, if you're rubbed the wrong way, then you don't necessarily align currently with the predominant opinion in the admissions offices at the majority of highly selective colleges and universities in the United States. That's not how they do business. If you want help throughout the college admissions process to maximize your chances, regardless of where you go to school and what your value system is, and you just want to increase your chances regardless of who's reading your app, then you should certainly go to my website, collegemeister.com. I'm laughing because it's a sort of story, right? It really is. But it's true, and I hope I haven't upset you too much today on a Friday when I put this video out. But until next time, my name again is Craig Meister. If you like what I've talked about today or you want to learn more about how we can work together, go to my website, collegemeister.com. You can also watch my entire back catalog of videos for free at youtube.com/collegemeister. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay stress-free, if that's possible, throughout the entire college admissions process.